America today.
Yes.
No hope. And I mean it not in a super negative way, it's just with what I've seen with the generation.
Yeah, well, I mean, every generation, every single decade, there's been a group of the elder people saying how our young generation, or our generation, I guess you would just call it for short, is going to mess up the future.
It's quite scary. I think America right now is quite scary. I think I'm not really happy with America right now. I'm concerned about America right now.
There's always going to be some sort of corruption in America, you know, and
corrupt, hypocritical, lies.
I believe that America pretty much blows.
America today, I think it's the same as it was before, I guess. I mean, we're not all equal. I think it's a big hoax. Like, honestly, like, you put out this whole thing of, like, freedom, religion is separated from the state, and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's all really not there. It's not.
Basically, America right now is completely just off balance. There's no direction. Everything is, excuse my language, a little bit fucked up, you know what I mean? Everything's put in a classification. Are you lower class, you middle class, you upper class?
America is still a great country, yet we don't have our priorities straight.
The thing I'm thinking about really a lot more than anything right now is how there is no longer any adherence to any kind of facts or truth. People no longer believe in facts whatsoever. And so you cannot make a viable argument because someone will just say the opposite and they will not give any proof, and they will just repeat that statement over and over again, assuming that repeating something over and over again creates truth, which it doesn't. So
I think there's a lot of pressure on the middle class to perform, and I don't think there's a lot of jobs out there. So I think financially, America's in really, really, really bad shape.
The 99%, I think that's still unfair. How basically we're being run by rich people, and how like the either middle class or lower class is being like either paid unfair or taxed unfair.
Our system is falling apart. The social classes is destroying the United States. And at one point, yeah, the 1% does even things out, but they give you the crumbs. They give you like the little bread crumbs. It's like a big feast. The 1% is on top eating. The masses get mad and they start arguing and they start having riots. And the 1% comes out and they say, all right, fine, we're gonna give you just a little bit. But they give it out to the working class, which is like the second biggest, and they're pleased, and our voices aren't heard.
nobody is really paying attention to the working class or the working poor. I mean, as long as I can remember, I mean, America has been the big brother to all the countries, and now everybody can see that it's just falling apart now. And I think that we should really just focus on the 1%, the 99%, and what the 1% is doing.
We know what's real and what's not. We know when we're being lied to. We know when we're being fucked with. And we're tired of it.
It's always like the rich people are like most amount of pay, while we just get pretty much screwed over.
Growing up, I've seen companies take over everything, destroy our environment, everything that I love and that I care about. I've seen the government take it down.
Especially with our economy right now, that I think can be easily fixed by a stroke of a pen. But we have so many opposing views of how to fix our actual problem that we tend to argue more than actually put ourselves into action. Well, not us alone, but definitely our representatives and our politicians that are here to represent us.
And the fact that people are fighting over fighting. It's like since they disagree with who they want to vote for, or what issues are going on, they're essentially disagreeing with one another, and they're just disagreeing with what's going on in our country. And the main thing that's tearing our country apart is the fact that no one can agree on anything.
God's in the freaking Pledge of Allegiance, okay? And you have to swear on the Bible when you're in court. Like, how about if you don't believe in the Bible? How about if you believe in the Quran, or you're a Buddhist or something? Like, what does that even mean? Like, you're obviously not swearing. Doesn't mean anything if you don't believe in the Bible. And how about if the Bible isn't even real?
Most of the nation is centralizing on our military and the Navy, and they're trying to make us seem stronger to other nations, while inside we're actually very weak because there's a lack of unity. I feel instead of going out to look out for a bigger Navy or bigger military that looks stronger for other people, we should try to create unity amongst ourselves, that way actually having a united front and being able to combat with other people we actually have to in the future.
Most of our taxes go to the military. I think if we just take at least a good percentage, not a majority percentage, but just a good percentage from the military and put it into our public systems, it would be a lot better already. But I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did read somewhere it was 51% of our taxes go to the military. So it's over half.
Everything's owned. Every person is owned. Every person in the government is owned. I almost feel like we don't have any choice in any of the things that are going on, and it's almost hopeless to even try to change what people are controlling over us.
The government is a separate group of people. They're not part of the people. They're people with a throne, and I think they're not too good because they have power and they want power.
There's wave of conservatism right now with Texas, Alabama, Arizona, Alabama, Georgia. These really strong anti-immigrant laws. You know, at one point, Germany went through that. So hopefully we never get to that extent, but we do have something of that happening, but to a much lesser degree.
I think immigration reform is very important, especially nowadays, because well, I've seen families being separated, little kids being separated from their moms and dads. Basically, a lot of people are coming in to America to sustain their families who are in other countries, and I feel like they deserve a chance in this country.
We speak about the importance of education, but when it comes to actually making decisions that are going to benefit our youth and our future, we tend to put that aside.
People that come to our schools are people who want to enlist people in like the military, saying this is your only option because the alternatives are really hard to do. They say, if you guys want money for college, we're going to provide that, but you guys do this first. They're not giving people the opportunity to look at the awareness of other things that are going to be around, like financial aid.
Because we've already had lots and lots of budget cuts to our schools. Our schools are overcrowded. They don't have the resources. We don't have the college advisors and the career planners on our high school campuses, and even in our higher education system.
The lack of education, there's no focus in it. I don't think parents, politicians, students have as much of the focus on it as they claim to. They don't fund it as much as they should.
There's all these kids skipping class and blazing it, and standards are low. No, they don't want to go to college, they just want to graduate.
Education is one of those issues that we always like to consider, but never want to actually do something about.
The more pop culture just influences them so much where they don't even see the purpose in education anymore. Being a teacher, education is the only thing that we have to lead us, to guide us. And now that they don't value it, it doesn't matter how we teach the old people, but if they move on and the younger ones aren't there to fill that path, then we have nothing, at least here in America.
It's going to be rich are going to be extremely rich, and there's no such thing as middle class. Middle class will be wiped out. It's poor, rich.
You look at even the media right now, there's been this transition where even like what used to be channels that would focus on preservation of wildlife are now doing the complete opposite. Like Discovery Channel at one point was really about preservation of nature, is now hosting shows about guns, about crocodile hunting, which I know it's a livelihood, but that it promotes it to such an extent.
There's a lot of ignorance because of media and the way it triggers children and our youth today. Like everyone's just interested in television, music, pop music, and everything.
So you could either be a pop star and write some shit about ass 10 times in a row. Our economy works because there's us that work really hard. We're living in Cyprus, and then there's Lil B who's rapping about nothing, and he has fans and followers. And
this is sort of a corporate democracy. Ignorance and doubt are the two most powerful tools that the corporations have at their disposal. So things like this become extremely powerful because there's doubt on whether they are dangerous, and there's doubt on whether they're addictive, and so on and so forth. Being kept blinded by the corporate industry is, I think, the most major affliction of this country.
The famous, rich, and powerful dumbasses that lead the country have a following of even dumber, poorer followers. It's all a big cycle of fuck.
The real problem now is just ignorance. The more people you have and the more advertisement you give out of a more status quo lifestyle, then everybody will be along with it. And I feel that if the information is put out there, not so much as a paternal, in-your-face, you should be living a different life, but much more as the propaganda as a Pepsi fucking billboard or anything else, just something to tell us like how much water is used to grow our food every year, or how much we are actually wasting in food every year. Just the basic necessities of our life that people don't even take into consideration from living in this country.
What can you afford? What car you drive? People have lost touch with the organic way of life, and that's the most important thing, is the planet. I believe the planet is what runs us, the solar system, and all the material things have been kind of bestowed upon us, and we're supposed to chase after that.
The really basic issue is we've got to get people's attention, and that's what I think that we're failing in, is getting people's attention, because everybody thinks it's silly to go out and try to do something, or I have to go to work, I have to do this, I got to do that.
And so I feel that would be a very good standpoint of starting right there, is informing the masses as of what could be else exists in this country.
A lot of people are not involved. Now, I don't blame anybody for any level of their involvement.
The right for gay people to marry, and I think that's something, again, that can be changed tomorrow. And I think if you ask the majority of people, they either don't care, or they're for it. And people that are totally against it, a lot of it has to do with their religious grounds for it. But I think when you take that out of the equation, I don't see why we as a country struggle with this issue, because it does matter. It is really hard if you're gay living in this social structure. It's like we're less than, we don't count, is what I think. And again,
we're gonna be at that stage where we're gonna just not progress, and we're gonna be like it was in the 1800s, and just say women don't have the right to do what they want with their body. Two people who, even though they love each other, can't get married because it's a sin. Or we're gonna say, we're just gonna accept everything the way it is, and people are different, and we should have the right to do what we want, and actually give people the right, and not just say it in some piece of paper that means nothing. I don't want to be so stereotypical and narrow it down to such a category, but you kind of have the Republicans who are totally no, you guys can't have abortions because that's in the Bible, and you guys can't get married because it's in the Bible. And I'm not saying the Bible's a bad book. I mean, it's an interesting book, but you shouldn't base your whole thing over a book.
I think this is a really important election, and I mainly believe that because of the Supreme Court. Because I think that where the Supreme Court is right now, it's 5 conservatives and 4 progressives, and I think that the next president's probably going to have 2 more, and that's going to make the difference of what kind of decisions the court makes, up to whether or not abortion is legal anymore in this country, and also whether or not how money is going to continue to rule this government, how it does now. So I think it's very important, primarily for that reason.
For all we know, our votes don't count.
I think no matter what, everything's still going to be the same.
So it doesn't matter who you vote for?
It doesn't matter. Well, I generally, my vote was for Obama if I could. But Mitt Romney's a selfish loser.
If we don't vote, then I think you don't have a opportunity to complain.